Welcome everybody to our second 800XA users webinar, Getting More Out of Your System, where we'd like to inform you of different solutions and packages with 800XA, sales presentations, and anything else that helps you get more out of your system. I'm your host, AJ Smith. I am being helped today by Bart Bluebow. And as always, this webinar is being recorded. Okay, as always, we start off with a safety moment. It is spring now, and you may be looking to do some spring cleaning. And spring cleaning means moving a lot of things, including some heavy things. So just a couple things to keep in mind when you're picking up large objects, staying close to the load, bend your knees, and let your legs do the lifting. If it is too heavy for yourself, make sure you get help and use dollies carts if you need. Today, we're going to go through what's new with 800XA, then talk about our main topic today, which is advanced graphics with 800XA, and then we will do a question and answer period during the summary section. So one of the things that are new is that there was a release 6.0.3 where Windows 10 operating system of compatibility was released in January for clients. Scheduled for July of this year is version 6.0.1, and that will have Windows Server 2016 compatibility. Okay. And if you want to know more about the upcoming release or just past release, download the release notes from My Control System. Next, we have a sales program on parts for 800XA systems, and you can save up to 50% on selected refurbished parts from 800XA. This is for U.S. end users only, and with those refurbished parts, through the rigorous testing, they are still ISO 9001 assured. With refurbished parts, you get a 30-month warranty. Lastly, there's a 800M exchange discount program where you can step up from your current version of the AC800M, be it PM861 or 864, to a higher version and receive a discount. You will need to have Automation Sentinel account that is current. Okay, so on to our main topic today, which is advanced graphics within 800XA. Our expert today is Brett Nelson. He's a regional technical advisor, actually head of all the regional technical advisors. And we'll go through PG2 libraries, what's new, some of the newer graphic elements for version 6, and some of the high performance elements that are available. So, Brett, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you, AJ. All right, so let me get presenting here for you all. So as AJ already mentioned, I'm going to go over here some PG2 graphics updates for 800XA. Some of the topics I plan to talk to you within the next hour is start off with a PG2 history. We'll have a little introduction. We'll talk to you what's in 6.0, not only for graphics, but also for 800XA operation. We'll review some high-performance graphic elements. I'm going to also give a couple different demos for some advanced graphics methods you can do with your 800XA system. and then we'll end with a question and answer session. So System 800XA HMI, PG2 history. As you've all probably realized, PG2 came out now almost 8 years ago, in 2009, with 5.0 Service Pack 2 Revision A. It's built on Windows.NET and Windows Presentation Foundation technology. The points here is that it's using this to improve resolution, improve call-up times, runtime performance. We got away from the VB6, where we are always having to, whenever we change an element, redeploy all the graphics that use that element. So now graphics updates are much quicker and easier. Another important benefit from moving to the PG2 was that we no longer had the OCX graphics files from VB6, which had to be compiled every single time, which if any of your systems uses whitelisting, that wouldn't be very feasible because it would change the fingerprint for that graphic every time you rebuilt it. Some other things that got improved is with the editor. We have a better zoom, rotate, grouping, mirroring, undo. We also have a much better find and replace tool for duplicating graphics for different areas of a plant. Within the actual graphic editor, we have the ability to enable a live mode. What live mode allows us to do is see the actual live data on that graphic before we even finish deploying it. That way we can get a better idea of what's going on. And then on top of that, we have a much better testing where we can test different elements by only having to modify the OPC values for that element. PG2 could run in parallel with a 5.0 and 5.1 system. Now that we are in 6.0, PG2 is the only graphic engine moving forward. VB6 graphics are not supported in 6.0, mostly due to the fact that the DLLs are no longer available from Microsoft for allowing this in Windows 8.1 and Server 2012 and higher. So getting used to the graphics, what this is just a nice little graphic to show you all the different parts and pieces that help make up your graphics. As many of you probably are like me, sometimes you're opening every single one of these different toolboxes looking for the exact object you're looking. This is just a nice one to go over all the different things where we have our buttons, we have our charts, our classic symbols, our graphic primitive, which is many times what we're using, the high-performance symbols here, which we'll go over, navigation for setting it to navigate from a certain screen, have the graphics open, shapes for drawing, special, and your standard symbols. So now we're into System 800XA version 6.0, graphics and operations. What's new in 6.0? What I've done is I've gone through the release notes. I pulled out what's new in 6.0 and also what's new in the newest release of 800XA, which is 6.03, like AJ mentioned, came out in January of this year and provided support for Windows 10 long-term stability build. The first thing is property expressions. What property expressions are meant for is for changing different OPC values into a different type. So an example would be that you could change a Boolean symbol to be actually a string. So you could have it so when a certain value goes true, it would actually, you'd have a property expression that could say valve open or interlock engaged or something like that, which is also able to be trended and displayed on graphics. What's new in 6.03 also is tag information. What this allows for is by a click of a button, a small display will appear next to the graphic element, giving the tag name for that element. And you can also put in some other information there like tag description. And it's only displayed for a very short period of time, like 3 to 10 seconds, and then it fades back out. I'm just used for it quickly. You just want to see what a tag name is instead of actually having to open that element now. You can just press button to have that displayed. What's new in 6.0 in all versions is with our trends, we can actually have our trends where the pen color for a trend will change when that is in an alarm state. It won't change because the whole entire thing, it'll only change for the portion of the trend that is actually an alarm. Some new graphic elements that are also part of System 800XA version 6 is a grid element and tab content. New to 6.03 for soft alarms, because this has been requested quite a lot, is the inclusion of deadband time in the configuration. So now we can say we don't want that that soft alarm to go into alarm unless that's been in a state for more than, say, 3 seconds. So here for the high-performance graphics that are included in 6.0, this is just a small overview of the different elements, give you an idea of what they look like. They come out of the box, available inside of PG2, where you can then configure them as graphic elements onto your different objects you have. As you can see here, we have ones for alarm indication, so that for high-performance graphics, so that the only color indication that's appearing is these. You have high-performance bars where we can show the alarm levels on the bar. We can show normal operation range. We can show the actual input values, be able to change set points. We have a voltmeter, which can display most of the same information. Radars, 5-spoke, 3-spoke, 4-spoke. High-performance trends that allow us to show alarm levels on there, actual values, and multiple grids on the side. So I'm going to go over the demos I'm going to work with you guys on and show you. I came up with these demos just on feedback that I've received on people trying to do stuff on their systems. I tried to make these hopefully the things you haven't seen before. So this first one is going to be adding documents into your 800XA system, actually pulling up documents from your 800XA system. So what I'm going to do in this first demo is I took the manual for the intrinsically safe S800IO, and I have it now so that when I open up a certain PDF, it will open up to the exact page that I'm looking for. So here I did it for a few different ones, and so later on you'll be able to refer back to it. Here's the window application for launching it, and here's the argument that we will talk about in the demo. And here I go over all the different things that I'm about to show you. I'm going to make sure it's here in the PowerPoint for reference. The next demo, what I'm going to do is aspect list. What I had created was a 800XA report that runs in my system, and it saves it into the 800XA system. And I want to have a way for the operators to open up reports and without having to have them open up an engineering workplace to navigate around. So I used the list viewer, created a way to have it only show the file viewer aspect. And then created a button that would open up the view of whatever was selected last. So if you had this 13 March report open, you press the button, or selected and you press the button, it would open that report for you. Last part is I'm just going to give an overview of the tab workplace with some high-performance graphics inside of it. So at this time, I'm going to go over to my virtual machine, and we're going to go through these demos that I just quickly discussed.
So I'm going to do here demo number 1, where what I'm going to do is have the 800XA system open up a PDF to a specific page by either using contextual messages or by using a verb button to open up that PDF. So the first thing I did is I created a folder here just to organize my thoughts here with one PDF in it. And then just to show you what you can do with Adobe is I created shortcuts that, if open up to a specific page to a PDF. Now what you need to do is send a specific argument to Adobe to do that. And that's what I did here. Is if you look here in the target, I'm sending it the argument to open up to page 35 and of this PDF. So now I'll come back here into the 800XA system, and you'll notice I made these Windows application aspects, where if I click on them, you'll see similar to what I showed you before, where it's opening up Adobe Acrobat Reader, or if I browse to Adobe Acrobat Reader, and then I'm sending it an argument of open up to page 29 of this PDF. So if I come here under maintenance and I go to open, it opens up to the maintenance section of this intrinsically safe PDF. What I would expect is for maybe your site you have a large SOP where there's many different sections to it, and it would be a pain to break it apart into multiple smaller PDFs to upload into your 800XA system. What you could use this to is to link to specific pages, or even for your maintenance engineers for them to be able to open to specific pages on an 800XA PDF for work, say if they're working on termination bases for I/O, so they can open up to the page just like I have here for, say, a TU-891. So they can open up to it and then they can look at the dimensions and how to wire up channels. So for the next part of this presentation, I'm going to come here to my graphic that I created. I already created a verb button on here, which if clicked opens up the maintenance manual here to page 29 automatically. So I'll go through how that was done. I'll come here and edit this graphic. What I did was I inserted a verb button here under buttons, down here at the bottom, a verb button, and then I came here to verb reference, pressed the little donut, it opened up, then I went to the verbs, browsed the functional area to where I created my little area, adding documents, and then for this one I went to the maintenance one and just went open maintenance. Click that arrow over to create that. So I'll create a new one from scratch. So we'll come here to verb button, drop it on the screen, and we'll come here and we'll change the text and we'll put it to, say, opening TU-891. So now that the button will display the right thing, and we'll come here to the verb action reference, we'll press the donut, we'll navigate to the area I need to be under verb. It's important you're under verb for this portion. So look for the TU-891, open TU-891, bring it over here so it's in this one. I sometimes press this parse expression real quick just to make sure everything's right, mostly if I typed a lot of stuff, or you can just hit OK. Now with that done, I now have a new button, so I'm going to hit save, and I'll close the editor. So now if I go off the graphic and back on, we'll see I have a new button saying TU-891, where if I click on it, it opens the PDF to exactly page 102, which is TU-891 Compact MTU. Now, another thing, since all of these are listed under the same object, I can also use the right click and use the contextual message to open up these different PDFs, just like I open ETU-891, TU-891, or TU-890, TU-890, page 96. So, like I explained, this could be a nice, easy way to have it so you can have operators open to a specific page on a PDF within your 800XA system.
So for the next demo, what I have a lot of the times is people want to make reports that run on their 800XA system. That are now available in your 800XA system under a file viewer aspect. This is all well and good, but it makes it very difficult for the operator to be able to access this unless you give them the abilities to navigate these structures. So what I did for this next demo is I created a graphic where it pulls and scans an area that I tell it to, and then it finds all the aspects that come under that name and gives it here in this list. And if I select one of them and hit Open Selected View, it opens that specific aspect. So what we did for here is that we put a view list on here, which the view list is located underneath graphic primitive here, view list. Drag one on here, and then what I had to do was create a view reference to have it look in a certain area for different aspects. So if we click on the donut to go pull up what I typed into the view reference, you'll see here I say it's going to look in the scheduling structure for anything with report and a star underneath of it. So if you notice here under here, all of these started with report. So look for all the objects that start with report. We're looking for the aspect type of file viewer, and the view I'm looking for is main view. After entering this information in here, I then get here. So another thing I could do is if I wanted this list to have just all the views that were available, I could come here and just give this a star. So to say all the different views, which for a file viewer isn't many views, but hold on, I'm going to just, so that way I don't have to retype this later. So if I put a star in here and hit apply, now you see that there's main view and config view. Those are the two views that are available for that. If I move this back into normal position and save it, and we go look at the original graphic, now it displays both the config view and main view, because what I told the restrictions are it has to be an object that starts with report and it has to be the aspect type of file viewer. Now I could even put an asterisk again on file viewer and just put main view here, and then I get all aspects with the main view available. So that's how we limit what views we see on our list. So I'm going to go ahead and change back this view reference to the original. Now, how I got it to open up what I wanted off this list? I had to create a aspect view button. What that aspect view button is, it's looking for a value coming from this list. So the aspect view is saying view list 1, which is this element right here, view list 1, and then dot selected view. So whatever I've clicked here as the view is what it will open up. So by doing that, now when I select any of these reports that are in that scheduling structure, I hit open selected view, it opens that exact PDF. But it could also be an Excel sheet, it could be a Word document, it could be whatever the report is, or it could be used for different other objects, like say I wanted in an area to open up I have a view of all the faceplates in a certain area or of a certain type. I could then make my filter to only show me tags that end in, say, XYZ, and then I could have a list of all those faceplates that I would be able to use now here to open and view them. In the tab graphics demo that I'm going to be showing here in a moment, that's what's used to display different information to the operator. And something to be reminded of here is by doing this, this is going to be some late binding. So if I look at the diagnostics for this graphic, there is a late bind here where it's looking for this information. By doing this, this can increase the amount of time it takes for a graphic to be opened up. So make sure you don't try to use this kind of an element on every graphic, or it will increase the loading time of graphics. So for this next part, I want to show some new elements in 800XA. First, start off with the high performance elements. You'll notice under here under the toolbox we have a section for high performance elements. First one being high performance alarm indicator. This gives us that nice standard high elements for alarms, which if we change the priority, it changes it based on that. Normally this would be tied to an OPC value of a tag. And by doing that, now it disappeared because it's based on that. What I can do is go to View, Mode, and I can go to Live View. And now it's telling me that that tag, the R11LT, is actually in a level 2 alarm currently. Another new object is the high performance bar here, which can be used for both an analog input and also just for view. Based on how it's set up, is you'd get the ability to have an operator adjustable level or just an indication of the current level. You'll notice that there's a lot of different configuration that we can do for if it's allowed for input. So we could turn input visibility to false. And now we no longer get a user input, but we still get output indication. We have the ability to set a limit for high limit and high limit and a low and low limit. That will be displayed in these two little boxes here that you can see, the lighter gray and the darker gray. And if it's active, what color it'll be displayed as. We also have a magnifying capability where you can have it so a certain area of the scale is magnified for more precise view of where it's truly at. And also the ability for quality of a control connection, and also quality for OPC, for displaying if this object is in error or not. So there it shows that part in error. The next one I'm going to show you is for a station. It looks very similar to the one before, but at this point it gives us the ability for set points and for setting control output and showing modes. Another one for showing analog values is the voltmeter, which has very much the same settings, just a different display of the values. And included in the high performance is two different types of embedded trends. Here we have the high performance trend 2, the high performance trend 2, and then just the high performance trend. On these, we are able to select a different values that we'd like to display on the trace. On this one, you'll notice how we can set it up. When we point it to an actual analog value, so let's do a 6. You can see that it already knows that there is being hysterized. So by choosing the out, that's already being hysterized. When I open this trend, it's already going to backfill using the log configuration that's already assigned to that point. And that's why I have those 2 points already in this trend, even though it just opened. The two new elements that I mentioned are here on this graphic. The tab where we're able to put 3 different objects, or 4 or 5, how many ever you define, onto this tab element. And here in the number of tags. So here if I do 8 tabs, now I have 8 tabs in it. And here is the grid, which you can use to display information in a grid format. With the tab, I can then make it so I can display multiple pieces of information on one graphic in the same real estate. So to go along with all these graphics is also our tab workplace that many of you have probably already seen. I'm going to go over a quick demonstration of that. So here's a tab workplace, which has the tabs that are identified here. So here I am under process automation. Here we can see different areas that you're under. So if I come under we can see the different areas that I have available to me. And it can show you alarms in that certain area. Like I know in the process area from this orange dot that there's an alarm in this area. And then by going under it, I'm able to see that there's an alarm in reactor 11 and also reactor 12. And just like navigating to D1, just by a click of a button, I know that there's somewhere in here there's an alarm due to the fact that there's the dot right there. The navigation of this is very easy for the operator, and configuration just involves by setting it up just as you were going to have it look, just in here, by setting up your areas just like this for your tab navigation. So with that, that's my demonstrations that I wanted to go over. So I just want to go back through the slides that I showed you on them. So as we went over for demo 1, we used a workplace application aspect, pointed it, and then we were able to send the application arguments to open up to a specific page in a PDF. And then able to use a verb button to launch that aspect that we created earlier on. In demo 2, we created the ability to show an aspect list of reports to an operator on a graphic and able to then launch one of those aspects. We did that by creating a view list, then setting up a view reference to look in a certain structure or certain objects with a certain name, then identifying what's the aspect type, and then what view of that aspect type do we want to have listed. After setting that up, we were able to create an aspect view button that opened up whatever was selected on the view list. Then we went over the tab Workplace for navigation, for alarm response, how you're able to use that to navigate to see where alarms are for that portion. So with that said, I'm going to now open up for questions. I think that, AJ, you're there, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'm going to leave it on this page if you don't mind.
Okay, are you guys ready for some questions here? AJ and Brett?
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
Yes.
So, okay, so Mike Wakeman, he's raised his hand here. Mike, I'm going to unmute you. You can go ahead and ask your question now.
I like the presentation. The one thing I would like, though, is I would like a copy of this presentation sent to me. There was a couple of things I think I can use still in 5.1 here, especially that list box, and I'd like to see that demonstration.
Yeah, Mike, you're correct. There's a lot of things I did in this demo that can be used in earlier versions.
Yeah, so like that list box. So I'd like to get that. Either send me your presentation, or send me a link to this presentation when it's it's done. You said you were recording it, so.
We'll, Bart, we can send that with the newsletter, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, Mike. So yes, just look for the upcoming 800XA newsletter, and we will have that a link to that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because I like that list box. I probably have a use for that, and so I'd just like to see that demonstrated. But I do like your new trends too, by the way. Not as cumbersome. Thank you. That's all I have.
And if anybody else wants to ask a question, please raise your hand or type in a question into the Q&A box.
We have another question here from Scott Martin. Scott, I'm going to, I have unmuted you here, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know, you were talking about a new feature, I think that was in 6.0, that there's a button that you can click that'll display the tag name near the elements. Is that only during the editor, or is that in the actual graphic? And also, do those tag names become actual clickable hotspots? For example, in our graphics, a lot of our items, we'd like to be able to hover over them and click them to bring up a tag, or to drill down, bring up, faceplates or whatnot. So for instrumentation purposes or operators trying to find out more about which tag name they're actually looking at.
That's a great question there, Scott. So this appears on the graphics, but it's just like a kind of like a tooltip that is displayed for a short period of time, where you can actually move it and relocate it. Unfortunately, I don't have it set up on this demo, but what's nice about it is that on a graphic that's not very busy, is it gives you a quick press one little key on the keyboard, or you can do a right click and have it display on the graphic, and you can quickly then see where what the tag names are. And then in about 10 seconds later, they just fade out.
Now, as a tooltip, those aren't live in any sense that I can actually hover over that tag that popped up for 10 seconds and then click on it.
No, you would have to click on the element if you have the element clickable, because there's ways we can make it so that we can make the graphic. Right.
Okay, great. That answers my question.
We have another question that's been typed in. AJ, I sent this to you, so hopefully you can see it. Brent, I'll read the question to you. When clicking a button to display tag name near elements, do those tag names become clickable hotspot to perform an additional tag query, for example, faceplate pop-up or area object drop-down?
I think that goes along with Scott's question. Yeah, as I say, I think that's Scott's question there, where it's really just that display that we talked about here in my presentation. I'll go to that page with the new additions. Is that tag information. You can click a button or right-click on the contextual message and say tag information, and it just gives you like a tooltip near all the elements to tell you what tag that's assigned with. Because normally we don't clutter up the display with all the tag names because most operators already know what tags they're dealing with, but it can be a quick way, instead of hecking around on a graphic, to be able to have a quick way to pull up all the names.
Hey, other questions. Again, if you want to ask a question, please hit the raise hand icon or just type your question into the Q&A panel. I have one question for you, Brett. Do you use the verb button in one of your demos? Is that only for pulling up documents, or what else, other things can you use the verb button for?
Well, the verb button is different than the aspect button because it's an action button. It's telling it to do something. So the verb button in this situation I used it for was to pull up to start that Windows application. Normally, if it's just a pure aspect, if you can see the view inside of 800XA, then that's normally you use an aspect. If the verb is more for if it's going to do something outside of 800XA. In this case, to open up Excel, or open up PowerPoint, or open up a PDF, or even open up Windows Calculator.
Thanks. I think we have another question here from Willie Peters. Bart, can you run on the phone, or do we have to read the question?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't unmute Willie.
Okay. So Willie writes, will trend lines similar to Excel functions with moving averages ever be used in 800XA trending?
Could you repeat that, AJ?
Says, will trend lines similar to Excel functions with moving averages ever be used in 800XA trending?
So he's saying like moving averages over a time frame, a time period. Normally we have to set up special log configurations to do those time averaging for display on that portion. And I'm wondering if that's what he's getting at. If not, I could get with Willie after this and give him a call and make sure I can get his exact question down.
That would be helpful.
Brett, I have another question here from Bobby Alsobrook. And Bobby, your line is unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there a rule of thumb for a maximum number of late bound reps before you start seeing significant performance impacts?
It matters on your query. You know, if you're doing it with every single element, it's going to cause major impact. If you're doing it for something like I did in my one display, then that's not so bad. It just truly depends on your architecture and your setup. What I did demonstrate is, if you notice, is a quick way you can find out how your performance is being impacted is by, and if you're not logged in as an operator, I mean, if you are logged in as an operator, you can still get to the same graphic, is to look at the diagnostics. The diagnostics gives us a subscription time, which lets us know what took so long for the graphic to open. So here, if we look here, what really happened is that the reason why this graphic took 370 seconds really to open is the late binding. The late binding took quite a long time for it to open up. You know, the first query took it 200 milliseconds, and the second query took it 1,700 milliseconds to report that information, where if I didn't have any of that on my graphic, it's saying the graphic should have been opened in 370 seconds, milliseconds, 370 milliseconds. So that's the easiest way, is to truly, without knowing what you're going to be pulling out, because in my sense it was a pretty big query of a whole structure, it's hard to tell exactly what's the maximum acceptable amount. But I would suggest you use the diagnostics using the timing and the late binding tabs to determine what's really going on with your graphics.
Okay, thank you.
Now, somebody might ask me this: how can you open up this diagnostics when you're logged in as an operator? I get that one a lot. If you hold down the Shift key before you right-click, the operator should be able to then pull up a diagnostic to get to the same screen. I find it useful if I'm at a site and they're talking about a problem with the graphic. Instead of logging the operator out to try to look at it, I would rather see what their diagnostic says before I go somewhere else. So if I hold down the Shift key while logged in as an operator, I can get to the same diagnostic.
Okay, we have about 5 more minutes left. Please, if you have any questions, either raise your hand or type a question into the Q&A tab. Okay, looks like no more questions. Bart, if you can hand back presentation. All right, thank you. Okay, there's my contact info. And I want to thank everybody for attending this quarter's webinar. Our next webinar is going to be September 25th. The topic is going to be the new My Control System. We'll talk about some free diagnostic tools that you have available to you, some patch management and being able to get some patches from the My Control System, and then document search and filtering for better search of things related to your system. Once again, I want to thank our presenter, Brett Nelson, today, and Bart Bluebow for a fantastic job. Thank you for attending, And as always, we'll try to do better the next time. Thank you and goodbye, everybody.